Dong do je je zon ron yin je ma do je bong jong ba sur je long bo da ver je ga go ja be ja dong go zan dur jen jan jen de lo na ro da ma ba ma la ju je gam bo ba pa mon da ba ja wa na ge qing la ma nan je da xie da zhe ra dong je da la ma la ba la ye je la zan yong de jam zeng la wan den de dong jen de ba ge le zo olha gozo go deni da ngarang so tanang ndel chetang ke zaw sabje som yures zaw sabje sombo de gangresina dambo de deni nga zo ndere 다 초사 드브장기치도 인라 듬바 고네 셰바당 디니 니바데 무기 잠보주보 몰람 데네 그라비에 넘바 주도고 고네 셰바 데초 참마 휴스인 다 잡sab지 숨바 몰람지 피용 셰바 갑드레스
So we give a summary of where we're at in the text. So the whole text itself consists of three main parts, and the first one was the 7 branches which are taught in order to accumulate merit and purify obscurations. Number 2 was the main body of the commentary on the prayer for excellent conduct, consisting of 16 subsections. And then number 3, and so we finished first number 1 and 2 already, and now we are at number 3, the third part of the commentary, which explains the benefits of the prayer.
다 텔라 레지 드바 용스 세 피용 세 다 잠보 주보 몰란데 로바당 데네 잠보 주보 몰란데 데네 셰바당 님바 단다 냠리 나와라 테네 레지 드바 상도그리 송레 레지 드바 시데 가레르스는 참이 벌레사 야레 데게 드바들 라고요레 참이 벌레 시반데 다 레 탐지에는 그 닌카 침보 휴지 차도 요레 perna ma sepa pa sepa teni dra chomba sepa teni sanje ju ko lang sang ko chan jin ba gindin ke yin se ba ndoso ke dikpa nda dikpa sa ya ba na khatok nyawan chami le chen ro ka tanda ke le chap chim bo ri te ti zambo ju mo lang ke di le ngin ba to so ta thu ko yo res.
So then this section here is the next section on the benefits is the benefit that completely exhausts all karmic obscurations. So when one recites this prayer for excellent conduct, or one explains it, or one listens to it, and one practices it, and then through such practice, one's karmic obscurations will become purified. And so what this is really referring to here, these karmic obscurations, are these 5 acts with immediate consequence, which are the most severe or grave negative actions one can commit. And so these are to kill one's father, one's mother, and arhat, to kind of make a bodhisattva, a Buddha, bleed with an evil intention, and then to cause division in the Sangha. And it is said that if one has committed any one of those 5 acts, then as a result one takes birth in hell very directly, and it's the lowest hell one takes birth at. So it is said that by reciting this prayer for excellent conduct, even such negative karma will become purified.
Tene lej dripa hiba drip si karela drikku yore shuna tene ngara tsu chu nyamni je ne susu gu ju la toba ya je ya yore pe nan thonglam gu toba la su ba ga toba je ndu ti toba de jiwar si ba la dripzi de tata ngara tsu chami ke lesa ya ba tu so la tin drip ro yore Di drapa de sang to go re song. Then di ka sun zo chami ke le ser chami hiba de Koran le de sa yaba na de ta give top ji le de pa jang wa ina jang ya yo re ma to de give top le de ma jang ba ina de ni le yin da ro tam bo mi de ni ji ne chami ke driver ro mi ba ma yin ba ko khato ti ke legend driver de mi yong ko yo cha chami se ta ya ba re de na yin za ta zombo jo bo mo lan de ke de ni pin yu ta su nam la ti ne ta te ta we me ge ba chap jin bo tene drewe chumo tenda yinba yina yang tene jang to ko yore se tenda yin zang a so ke zambo ju ba molan de ke pinyon to so tri su nam to so ha ko thoni tene da ga yin tro yin do tenda nyang le nang tham na tene chenda da sema kun do tene dewa res.
And so the obscuration here is what is actually what it is that obscures us. So what is obscured is our practice of the Dharma and our ability to develop a realization such as the path of seeing and so forth. And to that which obscures it are those, for example, those acts with instant or direct consequence. And even these can become purified. And now once we have committed one of those extremely negative actions, one of those 5, then these can only be purified through a very powerful virtuous activity, otherwise not. And so actually these, so when you cultivate virtue, a normal and ordinary virtue, and you have also practiced one of those negative actions, then this positive action will not first ripen, but this negative action is so powerful that it will directly ripen, like instantly. So that's why it's also referred to as, I think here what's called, unredeemable, or these 5 acts with immediate consequence. So that's the reason for calling them that. And so therefore, if we understand the benefit of this prayer for excellent conduct, we see that through this merit, even such a very grave negativity can become purified, and the result can be brought about quickly. So therefore, we should recollect the benefits of the prayer for excellent conduct. And through understanding the great merit that we accumulate, if we were to practice it, then with great joy and delight, then we certainly will find happiness in this and future lives.
Lej drapa si pateke phalam yin la je si sanje ji ya kompang la yan ro kapso dene yang ta pa tawa yang ta pa to ba la so pa yo phalam yin la je to so thopar si pa la dem ro yo cha to so tham chama dene jang to ko yo ba danda ke phyon chim bo yo re.
So then the verse here says, even those who in ignorance committed the 5 unredeemable sins will soon be completely purified by reciting this aspiration of Samantabhadra. So also regarding the obscurations, not there. Anyways, so what is obscured is that path to enlightenment. So for example, we speak about the 8-fold noble path to enlightenment, such as the right view and the right thought and so on. And all of these are obscured if one engages in these activities. And all of these can become purified. So such are the great benefits of this prayer for excellent conduct.
다른 참이 나는데 지휴대 다 닌가 지휴제나 네바 지휴대 다라 산제지거라 찬진 바데 제글라 저하요데 대 이나야 나랑서 렐라본다오 저거 고감다오데 mi zang des zha ge yore dan sa ni ba ji hyu de gending ge yin si je de ni ba pe ji bo yin song ge yore de gare sin ji bo re si de ma ji so je na so ting wa ji ge je ya yore ma to tim ma de yang se so je ya ro yo yong ge yo ma re de jim sin de de ban ro yang se yong ge yo ma re 다 겐든 그 인시 바다 저 겐든 튼보 님 튼보 제 인시 야바이나 디게 겐든 되니 춘 튼보 마차바 데시드 저랑 겐든 윤시 니 바다 요레스 다 니바다 저랑 그 겐든 니파 튼보 세 야바나 디인데가 저다 참미 있으데 레인 그 디바라 바 마제 바 카도 저 냐와 나미 레제 고요레스 나미 시바데 동하 고 히에나 히에 마차바 히에나 히에 마타바 반참미 바 동하 그 난도스 텔라라로 다인 잔델은 용녀와 지글라 니카 침보지 요드 남주 진히티네 잡잡지고 송고요레 대참ing 안하네
So those five acts with immediate consequence, the most heavy negative act generally is said to be to draw blood with an evil intention from a Buddha's body. But nowadays, actually, this doesn't really happen. It's also actually not so easy to even for there to be a chance of that happening. But nowadays, what's really the most grave of them is the division in the Sangha, causing division in the Sangha. So that's said to be really the most heavy one of those, because even if you kill someone, you can only kill someone once. You can't kill them over and over again. But if you're causing division in the Sangha, which is that you cause Sangha members who are harmonious to become unharmonious with each other, then until the point where they reconcile and come back together, until that point you continue to accumulate this fault of causing division in the Sangha. And that is called act with immediate consequence, because it ripens before any other karma can ripen, so it ripens instantly. And also, when it ripens, then it ripens unceasingly. So then one is instantly, first of all, born in the hell of unending torment. So it is torment that is inexpressible, and also it is continuously all the time. So there's a danger that this may happen if one engages in such activity. And so therefore it's important, especially of those five, that we are very mindful and careful about this one.
Tene dio de ni ba da parar da dimbe pinyon la ni de son da che shima la da ka re yong go yore se da pinyon kana to go yore shi ba de re de la na ji se yi ba ni yore ju du be pinyon da se jok zhe gon pinyon ji dan de bu du be pinyon ni san de bu gon pinyon de re da de ga dam bo ju du be pinyon de yi hi dan zok dang chin nam dang re dang ka do nam dang dim bar jor du tam mating mangpu te mata jitin sumpo kunang chuparan jor so. Ta yi hi tangne sipa te gandar chupa tamje yang tapan rupi yi hi. Ta ngarang zu jetang hirap sipa te yi hi ki ngor joba hirap yi hi ki cha he jik cha do yorwa landar hako ya hirap nuso. Teni zogdang sipa te 다 yin chopar siba da yin chopar siba siba de namjung so dangwan den zi ke yin ke da yin go loi dangwan den zi ke de so so go zo dan de lang zo la so ba da so la go yore yin ke dangwan den zi de din dangwan den ba da do de la ko go ri zo ne zo dang zi yin ke ran yin ke de ban ron de zi be ne yu dang ro ya bu na ran yin ke de ban ring ge ro de ni ta de so zo de de kap so de ni right dang si ta right in na yang che re mapo hyuyina ne dene yang mapo mapo hyuyina ne dene yinge ma ra yinge tongchong dawa je jene je susola yungdin dang dana yun yang yinge tongchong la soba la dine dene susu yungdin de yin la pin to mene ba yin zang den sanje jomdin de jabu rex tongo wanda de da werwa jabu rex man chong ba yina dene kapte du ta jagala rag toni dana chepar chimbo chi yeke yo zang dene rag min ba so tana sanje ke rag min ba dana kuyo zochi dana je ane zochi de dene sanje la ju mambo ju na tambu kapso ngarang su parkin ro hina ka nga mambo chi te parwa sin jine kale dene sanje ke yongdin su tong de dene korang su lo kanjiro warwa tene kado namda dimbaranjor se tate ngarang su kunzom sin jirtang ke jan ro hina tara re de dungu tonen de kapso ta tsin zambo tan tsin zambo sunchu zani ta peze jeju da da tamche ta dimbaranjor go yore song.
And then the second point here is there's the benefits that are beyond this life, so in the next lives then. And there are two sections, two parts to that. The first one is the benefits that kind of comprise the cause, and then secondly, the benefits that comprise the result. And the first one, the benefits that comprise the cause, is on page 58. So it says, they will achieve perfect wisdom, a radiant countenance, beautiful form, auspicious physical marks, and a noble birth. Profane and devilish beings will not trouble them, and they will be honored in the three realms. The perfect wisdom, so they will achieve perfect wisdom, and so with perfect wisdom, one engages in authentic action, conduct, and like our more normal, ordinary wisdom that knows what to do and what not to do is also an aspect of this primordial wisdom. So the word here is the primordial wisdom. And so our ordinary wisdom is an aspect of that because it knows what to do and what not to do, but they're basically of the same essence. And so then a radiant countenance, it says that a form, like a pleasant form, which causes inspiration in others, like faith to arise in others. And then, so that's is this the beautiful form, and then the noble birth also refers to the kind of class or maybe caste one is born into. So this comes from the tradition of old India. So in those days, if you were born in a lower caste, then even though you might have had great qualities, one wouldn't have been able to benefit others because nobody would look up to one if one is born in a lower like societal class. For example, that's also one reason why the Buddha was born as a prince, because at that time in India there was a lot of discrimination with regard to what class one is born into. And actually when the Buddha first started to ordain monks and nuns, he was actually heavily criticized for ordaining anyone, even those of coming from a lower caste. And they thought that this was only a reserved privilege for those of higher castes. And only later, once they really saw the Buddha's real qualities, then they would change their opinion about that. So the noble birth and then the auspicious physical marks. So that is ultimately when one attains enlightenment, then one attains those auspicious marks of a Buddha, which are the 32 major marks and the 80 minor marks of a Buddha.
다 간다르티 츠게 담보 단이바 안다와 때니 그 드네 자보죠 뭐람 데게 피용라 때네 다 난게베나 나바 탐진 진비 이히 세게베나 진zambo 숨제 자니 다 베제 제주 탐진 리버시버게 주시게 요레 송레 대연장 저당 알아서 진상 숨제 자니 요반데 조치와 가르를 때는 저리 세두 남주가 소소가 개위히니 탐제를 구바다 드니 파제와 철딘딘바 드니 남주 그 yap진 소소가 진히 때는 다 제발을 때는 간다 개위히니 코랑 그 라체 데이터베체 레와당 도바트라 제 미네야 소소는 다 제발을 때는 신상 손이 시바데 산제라 다랑는 거는 주바리 송거요래 드니 다라 페제 제주 세반데 간다버트네 세두 드니 개위히니 탐제라다 제 다라데 딘 독사게 딘 프로와 룰라 콘조게 돌로 프로와 데라 소바당 드니 남준지 담배추라 소바 탐지 님발라 쪼아메바 다 추추 콜로코런데 도솔라 쪼아메바 마제 드니 도솔 제 파르첸라고 드라 마잠바 드니 단다도 제발라 띠네 드니 간다르 다라데 베제 제추시바 산제게 용디 제프제 단다베나 트처트라병 바레스 다데 탐지 용어시발라 토머 졸라 렌드 데소게 데네 정문에 나오대 바바 잠보죠 몰람데 냠니 제발라 되는 종거요 바레 송레
So it is like first line here, just the first two lines in Tibetan. They speak about that the benefits that come from reciting the prayer for excellent conduct, which on the inner level is the attainment of omniscience or enlightenment, and so on the outer level it is those marks, the physical marks of a Buddha, the 32 major and the 80 minor marks, and they also come about from a certain cause. So for example, the 32 major marks, how they are created is, for example, through one's respectful conduct towards the spiritual teacher, and being like humble and respectful and mindful of that, even though if the teacher doesn't have any like hopes or like, thoughts about that, we still like practice treat them with respect. And so that's basically, with that already we have created the cause for the 32 major marks. And the 80 minor marks, for example, is a cause for that is if we offer a seat, like a cushion or a seat to a spiritual teacher, or we offer him robes, or we continue in our Dharma activities tirelessly, or when one is a teacher, one turns the wheel of Dharma, and one doesn't tirelessly, or one doesn't create any hindrances and so forth. And so all of that creates the 80 minor marks. And so both of these marks depend on a cause. And the actual cause for them is really this, to practice this prayer for excellent conduct.
Tene de tsikani ba tamani de du da matik mampu de matopso ta du hibanda jitang zo cheyu de nang du cha de nyomo bala so ba nga zo namji du ye la ko yo ba nyomo du lai pe du chibdag du tene phungbu du se de du yobonde la tine tene ngaran su chudra ba la parche yong ko yo cha de zo tamje ke tene la khi to ko yo maris nang du hibada de tabar cha de yor se du matik hibanda charta matik servandela ngaran zu ke chi tatang dukja ra won jin ya ke yo mari kai sen namba sanje be chula koran zu ke sedrchi sen ta namba sanje be chula ta yapu me pa la so ba ke junju ta ta mambo che pa yin ya namba sanje be chu servande dene ser na yin ji cha de yodu namju je laptu ji yore ser se ji de sa wo lo ya ya na yang wu de ya nam khala yan tro yong ge ri si di na yin ke dara de mitik se ji de so ga koron zo ge ju je sam ju ba yin na dene san ji ge chu de da gan za ge ko dene ya yong tin de ngu de jor jor ndo na ngan thong ma nyo tham je ge dene ti ge yong tin de chon thong yo wa de ta ba ji yin bu chani dene koron zo la ki ge yo ma res dene de ta ba la tin na ta so so je de nyam ni jin dong kin pa pa zam bo jo ban da so nyam ni jin kin de ji tin sum bo si da sa wa sa ten sa la sum na ne ba dene kan da la lu tham je ge dene chu pe ne su jon ro ri se kan se na da jan jo ge sem se je de wu cha du dene za ma ge je gu be ne su ran yin ge jon ro yo ba de da ro
Then, so profane and devilish beings will not trouble them, and they will be honored in the 3 realms. So devilish beings, I guess is the first one. So it's the Du, which is like a demon, a Mara. So the devilish beings here refers to the Mara, and so the Mara or the demon is mainly the demon on the inner level, which are our afflictive emotions. But also we speak generally about 4 Maras, which are the Mara of the afflictions, the Mara of death, the Mara of the gods, and the Mara of the aggregates. And these Maras, when they arise, they actually create obstacles to our Dhamma practice. So these Maras cannot trouble one. So they will not trouble them. And on the outer level then, so it says here profane beings. So the literal term is mudekpa here, which is like in Sanskrit Dirtika, which was someone who had a different philosophical viewpoint. So a Dirtika is actually not necessarily someone bad or negative. And there was a lot of debate between them and Buddhists in order to also refine or polish our understanding, polish our Dharma actually. And so even if those like non-Buddhist philosophers would criticize Buddhism, actually Buddhism itself still remains just like gold. It is said that gold is something that is comes from under the ground, but its radiance goes into the sky. So no matter how much somebody may criticize the Buddha Dharma, actually, when we look at its qualities, then the more we look at its qualities, the more apparent these qualities will become. So we will see so many more things that we haven't seen before. So since one's understanding becomes increasingly clear, therefore also any Dirtika's viewpoint cannot trouble one. And so then one will be honored in the 3 realms. The 3 realms here refers to above the earth, on the earth, and below the earth or the ground. And so when one practices this prayer for excellent conduct, then one will become like a worthy of respect by all those beings in those 3 spheres, such as the gods and the nagas and so forth. And that is mainly because one has cultivated bodhicitta. One cultivates bodhicitta, and then just naturally one becomes an object of respect.
Tani ban revu dube pinyon de re. Revu dube pinyon de la tani janchup xingwang zhong de janchup xingwang zhong de nyurn ro sone simjin pinsar deren dok de janchup sanjun kolo rab de kor du na de jeba tamje tol song. Ta de ga zu dambo tsikang dambo de ge Sancho Shiwang to the Tenyon Rose, Tin Zambo Jumula, Nyamlin Chinkin Kanza de, then Jobo Sanje Gary Shibutonre. Sankandavi Jerry Sidu, the Janchok, that's Zopa Sanje Jumdin, the Sanje do Sancho Shank Tondo Pamnatini, Yap Jumoton to Yone, Teni, Dingin Zela Nyambra Yan, Teni Sanje Barwa, Jumoton. Chitong Chen Yone. Tene de yin de tene de zambo jo ba nyam lin nang ke de ta ba ne jang chuk sem xing wang zhong dun zhuo ne tene ji mo zhong de yo ne de xin gen dun la di za dun zhuo ne tene ta san je gen ze ba ding go yo wa tene ta de jang chuk xing wang zhong dun zhuo de le du ya de yang tene pin ser song do 다 인라 핀바르사베체도 상제바데 인라 핀지 장초주도 sem지바데 인라 핀지 인장 대츠가니 바데게 인라 핀바르사베체도 데니스 장초 희왕 디크 종들 대게 요래서
Then the next is second again.
Again, right?
Yeah, but we always have seconds.
This
was second first, and now it's the second.
다시도 지어와. 지어된 이바데. 지어도 봐 피용은 데브도.
So it's the second of
result
of the second. So the second had 2 points, the cause and the result. The first one was the cause. So was the second of the fourth. Wait a minute. This is this is the second of the fourth.
Yes.
See, that's how it is. Yeah. So, and that one is the benefits that comprise the result. Page 58. So it says they will quickly reach the tree of enlightenment and reside there to benefit all beings. As enlightened Buddhas, they will turn the wheel of Dharma, taming the demonic hosts. So to quickly go before this tree of enlightenment, also implying, so they will quickly attain enlightenment. So just like the Buddha himself, when he attained enlightenment, he went before the Bodhi tree and then he sat there under the tree with crossed legs and he meditated in a state of samadhi and attained enlightenment. And so just like that, as a benefit of practicing this prayer for excellent conduct, one will also in the future go before such a Bodhi tree and practice there. So basically meaning that one will perform the enlightened activities of a Buddha and so reside there to benefit all beings. So one will stay there and to meditate in order to be able to benefit others. And so what will actually benefit others is the mind of bodhicitta.
다 지강 숨바데게 장초 상진 콜로랍드 거서 다 장초 생그 정도는 되는 땡인들 냠바 야는데 원바르즈 버 상제 또방원도 주는 원바르즈 버 상제 되는다 추중 콜로고야 그거 좀 연구 요러와 되는다 간다르 상제 좀 된데 나이 게더니 추중 콜로고 다 추중 콜로고 마제 되네 디츠강 예바데 그두남 데다 제바 탐제더스 다 다시 강나 가래 라리스는 두 저거 철 라키가 말이스 누지토고 말이스와 내가 잠띵 바라와 단디가서 팟들 들고 요레스 내 가르침 보시오 차도 요레 가래르세나 나란솔 뉴몬부 두 히바데 심줄라 지오나 데네 심줄라 데네 히데라 소발라 노가 요자 데네 데게 라 뉴몬부 두 세야바리 두 히바데 누진식 차네 라고 요로바 데니 폼부드 히바데 다 폼보가 본다라 nga 세네 데니 제 다이네 다동 짠네 파 폼보를 이나 nga 가완도 시 짠네 nga 시바지 요 말에 메바 하네 하고 참 고잠리 야 nga 히바데 그란자 코처존네 드납데도 요 바로와 ngone samgi sanna chuwa jiwe ju se che ngara zung khowa ke le kan da ta we chi cha de yore aten sang dani pumbu dus dani live du hi bande pe zukin ki jin ki ton pe jin ki ton ta ya wa live de zo tini koran zo lan zo ta la per de tini lula na chan ro ke mi dani saya ko ya la ya dong ha mi dani ko yo to so za ma ta ra je de wa lin du jiwa nga ma le su nam chim pa sa ba le tene dani koran zo nam yin po po mo chen jo ke ron do ya tin nam yin ma do ke nim yong se wan do su je to ko yo ma re 되게 찬이야 가서 담절 물을 뭐체 희바데 물을 뭐체 희바인데 짜 집이 전에 야르면서 쪼낭 집이 전에 야 말이 대하고 고요로 짜 가르지 치르시는 거랑 졸라 오 희와냥일인데 뭐 컴판세지도 도ян다고 하고 또 고요래 안 소지네 동아 용 고요래 동아 시바데네 게버끌마 세드네 가랑 소지 님종 그끌마 차도 요래 가랑 졸라 동아 요래 망인 니 손솜나 이 동아랑 그 만나나 마스타인데 봐야 많이 봐 ya lai hin layer na yin ga yang ko nega ko dewa ba hin ma do che nega ko dunga ro ma zin ba te ta wa yang ma yin ba tini te jum sin te na tam jam le rom ba che se wan de dra yin za tini ta ma de da chi da ga du ji wa yo na ga wa yo na shi wa yo se ta te ta we ji yo de ta de la ka re chi na te me pa zo yo re se de jim che se ban de 제와 조다 가와 조다 초와 조다 야르마도 샘코랑 그 꾸이경어라 난과다베티네 잼체 직바 탐제의 자와 데이터베제 마치와 메페 주연나 손바나 이 취지연 키바데 제와야 메드 네바야 가바야 메바인자 다 데이터베 네록도 또용도 단 데게 두담제 던로요레 두담제 던로고요레 데이터베 또바 냠뇽 때 야, 제 조연데 다 다르게 두제 그 룬데 야는 로고와 이나 나랑 저그 돌로님 바제 파 약박게 초와자나 제가 말해 근데 이보다 가 힘하지 세네 양부 만부 네 돈고 다 봉벌랑 가시는 진바침보 제자들이 당근의 말을 민강도서 너는 론 따지는 말을 이렇게 옥 제사도서 따나 텔라 도솔로 동하 강요 바데 소소라 요리 타마리 세나 소소라 라레레 수수 틴네로 도서 야보토 소나네 나반다와리 나랑 소케 주보죠 고요레 코란 주보죠 요레 나반다와라 동고 돌라만다와 슈침보제 요레 덴자 나랑 소케다 젠달라 흉 템보제 자 린드 요레세 담배 출라 자요 담배 출라 젠들 효자 거들 젠들 담배 취지다 젠들 취지 효자 거 상나는
then the next one so the other let's see the next line so as enlightened Buddhas they will turn the wheel of Dharma, taming the demonic hosts. So the second part of that verse. So the Buddha had attained perfect, complete enlightenment through his state, within his state of samadhi. So he mastered, perfected all realization, and he became a Buddha. And then he started to turn the wheel of Dharma. And so, as a result of practicing this prayer, just like the Buddha, one will also become such a Buddha and turn the wheel of Dharma. And so then it says, taming the demonic hosts. So before in the previous line we said that they will not trouble you, and here you're taming them. So there is actually a difference, which is important to understand. So we're not just untroubled by them, but we also bring them under control. So, for example, and that's in particular the demon of afflictive emotions. When that demon arises in the mind, then we lose all our peace and happiness, which is why we call it a demon. We call it a demon because it causes harm. Or the demon of the aggregates, the 5 aggregates that we identify with and think that that's me. If you take your physical aggregate and you dissect it to try to find the me, then it's nowhere to be found. So you might have a brief understanding of that, but then again, we cling on to this concept of me, this I. And actually, if you think about it, it's quite a sad situation, because then again, we engage in samsaric activities. So that's that. And then there is the demon of the gods, which is that when one is born in a god realm, or basically it refers to being in this very pleasant environment where everything is perfect, one has a perfect body and perfect clothing and adornments, and one is always youthful and has no illness, and the environment is pure. And that is the result of one's past karma. And however, as a result of that, even though it is a very blissful, happy existence, those gods are also distracted by their pleasures, and they spend their entire lives just the gods and the goddesses enjoying each other and having fun, and therefore it never occurs to them to cultivate renunciation, which is actually also why we say that this human body is so precious. So just note that we say it is precious. We're not actually saying that it's necessarily a happy existence, but it's precious. It's more precious because it is the vehicle whereby we can attain the peaceful state of nirvana. So, and that is because we also experience some suffering. It's because we experience suffering as human beings, we also have a way to cultivate renunciation, and we have an encouragement to practice the Dharma. Otherwise, we wouldn't practice. Or on the other hand, if we would be born in the lower realms, then there would be too much suffering. So our suffering is also not too much, so that we had no opportunity to practice. So the gods don't practice because they are only happy, and the lower realms, the beings there, don't practice because they only suffer. So we are kind of in between, and therefore that's the kind of the best condition for Dhamma practice. So when it is said that once we are born in this human world, then we naturally age and then we die. But if we recognize birth and death, what it actually, the nature of birth and death, so actually everything happens within the mind. The taking birth and taking death and birth and coming and going and so on are just basically thoughts. They're mental fabrications, imputations. So we create this concept of there is birth and there is death. But in the mind, actually, those concepts do not exist. And when one realizes that, then one is no longer afraid of dying. So it is said that within this recognizing this vast expanse, the unborn Dharma Dhatu expanse, which is the Great Mother, realizing that, one realizes that there is no arising, and therefore there can also not be any cessation, and then there can also be no abiding. So when one realizes the nature of the mind, then one has already tamed all the maras, all the demons. And so one has realized, and one has gained experience in the realization. And so then now we understand that when we die, then we will have to leave this physical body behind. And even though we understand that we will leave it behind just like a pair of clothing, we still are so afraid of it, and we are running around crying, I don't want to die, because we are so attached to our bodies. But if, for example, if you go to a hospital and you see people who are dying and how they die, then look at your own mind and see, am I the same or not? And it just depends on yourself whether or not you're the same. If you have realized the nature of the mind, you know that this body will have to be left behind. So in that sense, you can be the same as this person dying, the other person dying. So the outer appearance might be exactly the same. You die and they die. But then the inner mind may be very different depending on how you see it once you have realized the nature of the mind. And so anyways, this is the reason why, because we have this precious life, that we must make an effort in this life to practice the Dharma.
There da tara kangla kibanangi. Tamjor mulur boche kibanda. Za chi chong ra je tna san ma tang rwa. Ngarang chu pichu chi chong la sam tang go yore. Ngarang chu chala ji na yang kol pichu ka che yu na yang ngarang chu la de chang ke gu de ba ji yin ba yin de ganza ji na ma shi na korang ke che chang je pin tho yong ke yo che chang pichu ra yo na de chang ke teni ngarang chu la kar chim bo cha de yo rwa. Pe te yin de ma te kar chim bo cha de yo rwa. Te ma to ko ma te chi ma che yina ko chi chimbo sabo re ze lo jun ro chimbo yin me na te zo chi hyu te pin tho che jong cha ge yo ro te te ndo nga zo da di tam jo me le ro che sa ndo ko o ta ge wa san je ge san ro ya la pin tho chimbo jing ge ri da sam na ta nga zo lo do na gi nang ge tam jo ni par ka wa hi ba don to re te de don te de to re ta to cha de tin ti ka la ya 다 비주 땅고 요래 gebsola 대리 마도게 담보 또래
So when we think about this precious human body, actually, then we don't actually have to think too much about how precious it really is, but we should rather think about how useful it is. Just like when you have an object, then you usually think, like, what's the use for that object? Is it useful or not? Or even like with people, actually, like the people who are more useful to us, or like in a sense of like benefit us and help us, are less more important from our perspective. And so just like that, with this precious human body, that we can actually achieve the state of enlightenment and then benefit beings vastly. So of the four thoughts that turn the mind, when that arises, when you feel that I must do this, I must use this body to achieve that, then you've really understood the meaning of the precious human body. Because then you're using this precious human body in order to practice virtue.
That tahi zab subject sumba nang de la subject som yo de nang ke sumba de njik tin pa dan njik tin len de puson zo ba malu ba to be pions dan de kar chen bo hue en de chama ke samla ya bo ja thom na te kare ke ting ge yores na ga yang zambo ju bu molam de changwa tang ne tung dam lo ba ye de number min ba san jin ji jang chun so lo so ni ma ji jik 다 담보데 다 잠보주 몰란 데세 공존로 제레 당엔들 직 피용 요레 제 트윙거리 세드지데 당아길 직보 랍데와이나 저런졸라 초아체서 때 듣고 요하고 요 말에 내가게 티 그런은 저게 요바 라 이치당 딩수 요부터네 마 현도고 요레 다 대효도 다 빵본다 원데레 창와다네 창스 가레 소소근 창스다 Kurang zambo juba molang ke tep kurang lawan chawada tela labo yore tundam seerdu teni soso rani ke tarate ying chi to pa tumba yana soso rani ke tune ying chol ying ton to lopasi ta tumba lopasi ba de ganza soso nguni tonda jigba imbala teni yin la je yin don yin chi de ba je so so rang da randon zen na sta jo mar de so so rang da de to la nyam ni je ba de cha ge yo re da de je ba ge de number min ba san jin chi the Koju Pay Chimbo Yorda, Sanjig cheese the Sanjig chin the chin, Sanjig Michimbi Chuji Yomare Sena, then Lelapo Hunda was your Del Soa Yomare. Soa Kanichi Gursna. Churang get Zambu Mola Tab the Yan Laben Chang. Kag lo yin la pa, kag tung yin la pa lo ne, the Rajin, dig naming and revite, Natsu Samno Chigmari sonita. Natsu Samno go Pion de Zam Yuridas in Pion la. Say Yartoko Maris. Cotain Samne. Ben Cho Jamso Jin Down or Jamso and the Yamoka say Yoresena, say Yarto Yomarwa. Drang Chan, Drang Hajamambori. Then tell us about. They in the Dig Zambo Molan, the Chama Dam, the Tuna Loba, Tamil, the Dig Namis, Digenta, Koran Ranke, Yinda Geva, the Society, Madame, Koran Ran, it's a me up and David, Sanjay Kuna Kujuari song. Tate Tawa get a name, Suna Yudi, then it's a gang about the Janchum Cholo, Somnia Mazij, Somnia Shiba, Tesam Shibatone, Lo Zenijin, Puyo Yoda, Mina. Pache Yojiriho, Pache Yojimareho, Tana Masambachi, Somni Mazir, Somni Mugoson Danda. The Sanjay Gangaran Sola San in the Gokor Goyake Yo Mare. Guys in the Sanjay Ke Namba Zambale Matsama Namba Jurin Doyanda, Tadot the Namba Sanjay Koran Yomaring on the Tane. Sanjay La Yomarella, Sanjay Chumune, Jetawa in the Chinking Tamjela Yomar de Tava. Mare de yin che nambal chur jurgo se namba member mambo chago sam do yando rewa yo mare namba mambo chago sam yo mare pen choranzo chu dumdu yo nindo yo na ni ten tela pinto de natan dos nga ka tanda che pa yin tra yong dos ten mani na te ta misa ke che ta nyom ra ore te insa nge ta de hyo go ya ka san sanje ke Roa Matsama Nambal Surjaya, Miyori Miza, Tangokor Tongoji Madongazo. Chorankas Chanchokas Cholas Zambu Jubande, Chama Tan the Tunda Lopa Latin Tarate Sanji to compound Tom Roade, La Tesom Maji, Soma de la Lagoya Jimsin Kan, Cartegla Pinto, Deta with Mibaina, de Lagoya Gupa Jimsin Kaya, Yomare. Uneran, Yina Tambu Capso, Karena, Tin Marek Bacho, Lobjon Chamba Caps, the Yina Tungutone, the Tesongoya Mare, then Choran Teson me Parker, Janjo Jukoma, Tokuyo song.
So then we come to the next, this is the third of 4, right?
3.
But it's a 4.
3.
Now it's 3, but it's a total 4, right?
No, 3.
No? A total of 3? Oh. So it was
3. 3 has 3, right?
Oh, 3 has 3. Okay, there was 3. Oh, there were first 4, which have 3, and then 3 has 3.
3 has 3.
Yeah. So this is 3.3. So it would be 4.3.3, which is the benefits of obtaining without exception all perfection of the world and beyond the world. And it says, so that's the last verse on page 58, whoever preserves, teaches, or recites this aspiration of Samantabhadra shall ultimately attain perfect Buddhahood. May none despair of complete enlightenment. So, this is actually an important verse that should definitely keep in mind. And so it speaks about not the benefits, but if I'm telling you the benefits, if I'm just telling you that these are the benefits, then maybe it's not so sure that you will really have a special feeling about it. But when I'm saying these words here, and then I'm only saying them with a trust and confidence in their authenticity. And why? Because this verse actually bears witness to that, is why I have this confidence. And so there is 3 activities with this aspiration of Samantabhadra. So the first one is Changwa, which I don't think it's preserves, it's holding it, like picking it up, like something like this. So you pick up the book, you hold it. So it literally means holding. When one holds, shows, or recites this aspiration of Samantabhadra. So the first one is holding, and then the second one is the showing or the teaching, which is what you do for others. So you're showing it, teaching it to others, and recitation is what you do for yourself. You recite this prayer. So one is the benefit of yourself, and the other one the benefit of others. And then the next line, so they shall ultimately attain perfect Buddhahood. So those who hold or kind of touch, come into contact with, teach, or recite this aspiration of Samantabhadra will attain that state of omniscience. And so again, this state of perfect Buddhahood, also of all knowingness, is also maybe a concept, maybe, or not necessarily, we have like a special feeling arising. So we say that, okay, of course the Buddha knows everything. So that's just kind of how it is, but no, maybe no special feeling arises. But actually, like how the feeling arises is when, so whoever recites this prayer or touches it or gives it to others, actually the result of this perfect Buddhahood is actually like an ocean, completely inexhaustible. It's like endless. There's just, we can't put a measurement to it at all. It's just like how many fish are in the ocean. It's impossible to say. It's just measureless. So those who hold, touch or recite or teach this prayer, then without like having kind of like Geba Shemba Kayam Martina. Yeah. So without even having to consider in, like kind of factor in any other virtue that one has ever practiced, if one only takes the virtue one that comes from those 3 activities, then the results of that will be inconceivable and are really only the scope of a fully enlightened Buddha to comprehend. And then the last line here says, so may none despair of complete enlightenment. So I think it's not despair. I think, and I also don't think it's may. So it's no. There's no doubt that one will attain complete enlightenment. So yeah, there's no doubt that one will attain complete enlightenment. So that is because the reason why there is no doubt is because the Buddha is undeceiving. And how can we know that he's undeceiving? It is because that the Buddha actually had never, and that's actually very typical for Buddhism, is that the Buddha had never actually tried to convert anyone to his view, his realization. He just said that this is how I've realized things are, you can listen to it. This is what you should practice if you want to. So you can listen to the instructions if it benefits you. And if not, then it's up to you. You don't have to listen to it. So this is just how I practiced, and this is how I benefited from it. And you are welcome to listen to it. But the Buddha never really tried to make anyone follow him or convert anyone. So since that is the case, since he really actually was not looking for a following, then he also has no reason to deceive anyone. Why would he do that? So therefore, we can summarize this verse as, when you touch, recite, or teach this prayer for excellent conduct, there is no doubt that you will attain complete enlightenment. So the Buddha wouldn't have any reason to say that if it wouldn't be actually true. If there would be no benefit, there would be nothing in for the Buddha of saying like something that's not true. So therefore, if we follow and we practice and we study and we recite this prayer and so on, then there's no doubt that we all can attain enlightenment.
Ta tenra yenza pinyon dra chimboje yore changwa tan tunda lopa la tine. Ta tenra ngaran zuge te ta pinyon yo ba ha kore. Te imbal jumsen la tine. Chirtang ta taranga zo de GPI chuzo ne yangse de zamba chubo mola sunko yore. Te na yinge ta churo ta benam ko churo to so ke tane zamba chubo mola tonta jarisa changso ne tanda zekidowa. To so pe mese ba ke jisi rang hyo ba re tani so rang ngo ne tini katse tap to ke tanda lo tham na ngene ta ne ke kawa zambo re tani ta nga cho do yi na ngarang do yi na ya de sa chung kap su ne lo ko yore nandu ha ma wo kap su ne ya na ge wi ni na ba tham je ke de ke nandu ha ko ne nga cho lo ji ne tanda chin do yore tini si so ta lob jang do su je tanda je de te nandu te sa ha ko te de tini ko lo de tini ko twa ndo de pe che che zo ko lo ha ma wo ba kap dan ha ko ka ni pe de ko na da sa ke che par je yo de ba tanda re te yin za ta de zu ko kan je he to so tani 저런 속 소송문을 롭종 그 네팔 때네 하고 요래라 되는 저희 강나 간산저 휴요리 때sol라 때네 내 마음 발음은 튀네 된도 솔로지도 소 같이 버리스
So today, therefore, we have understood the benefits of touching, reciting, or teaching this prayer for excellent conduct. And this is also Gachin Rinpoche Soyinbe. Gachin Rinpoche. So and then here the GBI, and we are always reciting this prayer, and actually also the Vietnamese Sangha is committed to accumulating 100,000 recitations of this prayer, and I really truly rejoice in that. It's really excellent. And so from my own perspective, the more one is able to practice that, it is of a greater fortune. And so when I was young already, since a young age, I've been always reciting this prayer. When I was a child, I of course didn't understand the meaning, but our teachers who did understand the meaning, they made us read that prayer. And so later, when I began to understand the meaning of the prayer a little more through the studies, then really a very special feeling of really kind of tasting the flavor of that text arose in me. And there was just an incredible difference between the feeling I had when I was reading it, not understanding its meaning, and then reading it with the understanding of its meaning. The difference was like a difference between like earth and sky, completely different. And so now I've explained this prayer to you, given this commentary, and you have a lot of knowledge and learning yourself, so you must have gained good understanding. And I myself have shared this commentary, these teachings to the best of my abilities, and I do hope that in the future you will, on an ongoing basis, continue to recite this prayer.
다 띠나게 드니 띠게 단 조들라 바르지 용수 ngowa 두발라 돈돈 시바 때리노 난지 데 장초 선바 따르 ngo와스 장초 선바게 제다르 ngo요나 데다르 ngo와 대긴식 바다르 ngo와 대긴식 바탄제 그 간랑 ngo요나 데다르 ngo와 드바다 타기 파르드 심바다 툼벨 류 용순 징바르 ngo와 대소단 대히 지레 용어 파르드 심바다 툼벨 류 용순 ngo와 징바르 ngo와 롱팀바터지 심진치 돈 드바르 ngo와 Zambo juba tumbe give tsawa yonsu ngwa simchin tamje oba mejines jewar ngwa os te naba dunju gone sungho du na oh ya chik tambo te songyo ji
And then the last section here is the dedication. So the section on dedication, which consists of 7 sections, and that is the dedication. No, it's not. So the dedication, dedicating as the bodhisattvas did. And secondly, dedicating as the Sugatas or the Buddhas did. And third, dedicating while like in perfect harmony with the paramitas and being also dedicating without any obscurations. And then number 4 is so generally dedicating up while perfectly upholding the paramitas. And 5th, dedicating toward the accomplishment of all the benefit of all sentient beings, and also dedicating to obtain a prophecy. Number 6 is dedicating perfectly all the roots of virtue that come from reciting the prayer for excellent conduct. And number 7, dedicating so that all sentient beings may take birth in the land of Amitabha.
ya ta te so gndre he de de tambo de jancho samba tamje ge jedar ngo yo ba te tar de ne so so ga ngo ge hi ba ton te la jampar pa ve jetran chimba dang kun de zambo te ya te yin te de da kun ji ji sa da lab ching ge wan da tan je rab dong de ta kar chim bo hyu re nga so nam ju ta ngo du ba chik te cha de yo re darang arang so de ma chu rok nan don do yo de te re tan de demati tikan nang dema churok ba jewa tel nana yo bandar ye de tang aso ke ta puju nanti ba yong ke te kala che zoglo ngwa de puju nanti ba yong zog songre de ta de serzang puju bumolang ke dor duba na wa je cha de yo de za tan jambar pawo ke tene ta gewa ngobutsur gewa tsawa kandawa ngogo gewa tsawa kandayimi te jetawa yin chimba chingi yores jabarba ge jetan chimba te yindu tene janchosun ba kundu zambo yang detawe ge tene jetawa yin chimba ta te yindu tene ngoan ge yores 대 지간 담보니 바니 데르와 된 숨바된 다 대다 센드 잠바양도 군도 잠보 되니 쪼르세베 다 장초 숨바 탐제 러 효효레 군제스데 참마르와 jis dala ta to so jisang ta so so ranga lagbo yin se jamba yang ga ngwa chetar cheta kon de hi mambo hyu sim barawa kun de zambo ke chetar se ba ta de hi mambo hyu sim bar ta to so ke tene gang gewa gandra che gewa tambo gandra wa lap bar de gandra wa gewa sa thar gandra wa mu ta de jisang ta so so ke cheta wa yin de na ji ne tene gewa da tham ji ta gewa 소소 라니게 다 체바 주바 좀바 양나 퇴바 삼바 곰바다 또 소는 만두바 메두 강세바 게바자와네다 탐치 랍동호 손다 제당 그와 치바들라 데네 모처르데라 랍동호 히바데 카르침보차도 요런 디캅스 랍동호 히바데 문네베나다 똥바니 미바메베 찌심부 토니 다 니제당 장초그 선고 제다부터니 당호한테 차용고 요래 대다른 것도 봐이나 데니 소소 근무 야바 개와 되겠다 랍진기 빈도 용고 요래 단데 반다로데 잠바 양세바데 까바 강가롱 망보 근무니네 장초주도 톡지네 탐진진바 공방원도 세도와 까바 강가롱 세마니 장 망보 공런니네 데니 kundu zambuwa dea yindo rindowa. De yina tisu ge gewa de tarung ngaran solo tisu gewa ge pingindowa. De kare jirisa nguwa ka topgu yungu yorida. Kona banga nguwa jejibu di topgu yungu yori. Chek jina nga su de jinsiba, da zambu jiba mula me na ngaran su sa kola ndu suwa lo tongcha bambu, tongsar bambu nguni yojiri de so ga pingindowa sina, sa kola, sa, zihen, sa, sabyu tamjek. 다 데려와 사기탄 가서 핑거도 사기 가르치 핑거요 대소가 되는선 대소 냠도 무이요 응네래 장조선 받아 산제도 속에 대응이요 바인사 나라서 핑토고 요레스 되는 대인데 당 나라서 속에 다 빼는 드랭게 니마타월 데이터베지 호아지 지 토바이나 마음 깔바 망보라 되니 핑토도 봐 된라 용거 바인자 드니 개완다 담제 라도 뭐 송고요.
So then so then here the first one of those 8 is whisper the numbers. So yeah. Anyway, so it's the first one of the 8, but I'm not going to go through the whole thing now. So the first one of number 8, which is to dedicate just as the bodhisattvas did, and the first one of that is on page 59. In whatever way valiant Manjushri and Samantabhadra know how to transfer merit, so do I dedicate all of my own virtues that I might train to be like them. So that one is actually a very important prayer, because that's the prayer that really summarizes the entire prayer for excellent conduct. That's really the essence of it, and that's also the prayer that we always recite, like in our prayer book on page 16. We always recite it as dedication, and it's also in the Tibetan tradition. Like all the Tibetans, they just recite really this verse here for dedications. So it begins with so the first line in Tibetan. There's 4 lines. The first line is just as Manjushri perfectly knew. So what did Manjushri perfectly know is exactly how to dedicate the virtue, how to accumulate them, and then how to dedicate them. So just as Manjushri perfectly knew, and then a second line, and just as Samantabhadra as well. So Samantabhadra knew, just as Manjushri did, how to dedicate virtues properly. And then the third line is, and I will follow them all. I will follow emulating them all in their training, in the way they trained. that's the third line. And so just as Samantabhadra and Manjushri and all the other bodhisattvas have perfectly dedicated, so will I perfectly dedicate. So, what is it here? The all here it refers to all of these bodhisattvas. So for example, all the bodhisattvas such as Manjushri and Samantabhadra, I will follow all of them and practice as they did, dedicate as they did. And how they practiced, we have already explained the virtues of Samantabhadra and so forth, and how they have first trained and how they have accumulated virtue and how in the end they dedicated and so on. I will emulate them and do the same. And whether it comes to the teaching, composition, or discussion of the teachings, or listening, reflecting, and meditating on the teachings, actually all of the teachings, all the practices are included within these activities. So all of these virtues, fourth line then says, all of these virtues I totally, fully dedicate. And this term, so it's not just dedicate, but it's like fully, completely dedicate, which is also a very important word because there's different levels of dedication, and this total dedication here is to dedicate from within a state of non-conceptual emptiness and also sealed with a mind of bodhicitta and compassion. Then if one dedicates in this utterly dedicates or totally dedicates in this way, then the results will become vast. And so, for example, when we think about the power of Manjushri's dedication, so he made these dedications aeons ago, as many aeons as there are sand grains on the banks of the river Ganges. So a long time ago. And he made these prayers with a mind of bodhicitta, and so did Samantabhadra. And now all these aeons later, in our time, they still benefit us. We still benefit from their teachings, and that's due to the power of their dedication. The bodhisattvas prayed for that to happen, for anything beneficial. For example, the mere fact that there are like plants and trees and so on in this world that also benefit us is also a result of their aspiration. So in the same way, if we dedicate our roots of virtue in a similar way, just as they did today, then that will continue to be of benefit for many countless future aeons.
Dusum hikbe jawa tamji ji ngwa kanglan cho de ngakpa dis. Dagi gebe zawan de ge jan zambo ju sarap de ngor je son. Ta dusum de hikbe jawa tamji sa de ta ande ma ta dusum kanda la de ne je dewa nen rebe de sa de sanje ju kompang la hik song ba ke jawa ta nyomong ba la so ba tamji du ge le yu le jar song en jawa de tamjeji deni ta ngwa kangla ta chod ngapa se ta rab ngapa ta ngwa nang ngwa ya hyu zelen ro deni korsum meme bu ngwa de goni deni ngonje ge yo barwa korsum meme ba tumba ni ke ta dami ba ke tsisim bu toni ngwa je ge yo ro de yendo deni dag zambo jo ba molam dinen molam pan de ya yo re chik ro hyo me yong hyo se ne molam ta ba dang deni de ge molam de ngar zo ba tung ba dang de la so ba ke ta de la tu sam gom son kare se na ti ge za wan di de dang deni ta du sum de sa ba ge ba tham je se re da ngar zo ga du sum la ge wa sa yu wari deletina tara tambe chudreba sunam di banderwa Kantar ngaran so pena make sipo chi yunande ngaran so chewa ngama sonam sapa kende chadu yori de ta ngaran so thara wambo na nga chapsang la kanga mi bande gewa lapchin chi sa ya ba ke devere tene de za ta de pa da tene ta sapar jo ba ke gewa zawa gang yo ba ta gewa ganda ba sa ke yori sidu ngaran so ke 투상 공선된 제주 종선 라수발람네 게와사바 제요레라 대인도 인제 게와사한테 텔레 지수 예랑 제발레테네 디크수남 게와고 토비오레라 산제다 잔초 선바 탐제 게다 게와 제다 사바 탐제랑 나초게 디 지수 럽용완들라야 수난주유도 다디 게와 탐제 시바데레 데네 다 간더 Samba jachewa janchoke semlati jowa sidita teke laktar te jachewa tene parado simba trokta der tene tab jachewa duvungubo ye gone se jinta hina donju dontun seba de tangone cha yonggo zambo juba nyamlin cheba la tine ta de tab ta de sok lamni tene zambo juba per ta nyamni purdu simba gang seba tamche ta jedang tusuk lani seba ke mani gang chik tungba sunchu de purdu sungba ke nyamni chadu yoba inza deya tamche deya yang rabdu ngo sundu tang kursa mikpa meba gwane ngogi yang na che yin la pang hu tsardu deka ping to yarda jine ngogi yin shiba deka tsikde tere esi
Then second again. Dedicating as the Sugatas did. And that is what the Buddhas. And so it says, since dedication is praised as supreme by the victorious Buddhas of the 3 times, I dedicate all of these roots of virtue to accomplishing the deeds of Samantabhadra. So the victorious Buddhas of the 3 times, of the past, present, and future. So all the roots of, so it says there's just as all the Buddhas, the Sugatas of the 3 times have dedicated perfectly the roots of virtue. So the term for Buddha here is also Sugata, who due to creating virtue proceed to happiness, so bliss gone once. And the second is the victorious here. Victorious because they are victorious over the demons of the afflictive emotions. And so then praised as supreme is in the second line of the Tibetan. So their dedications, so since their dedications is praised as supreme, so their dedication is the best of dedications, and the best of dedications is when one dedicates while abiding in a non-referential state, that is without concepts and free from the 3 spheres. So basically one dedicates while resting in a state of selfless emptiness. And that refers to any of the virtues that I have accumulated. So I dedicate all of these roots of virtue. So that's the third line. So all of these roots of virtue I dedicate. So we can bring to mind all these roots of virtue from having made this prayer, having recited a prayer and having taught that prayer and so on. And any virtue that comes from listening, reflecting and meditating. So all of these roots of virtue, and then the 3 times virtue of all these activities. So also, we in the past, in previous lives, we have already accumulated roots of virtue, which is now why in this life we encounter the Holy Dharma, for example, Or for example, the fact that you might have clear eyesight is also the result of merit accumulated in previous lives. And also the fact that our 5 sense doors are not impaired in this life is also the result of vast merit accumulated in previous lives. So all of these roots of virtue accumulated in past lives, we can bring them to mind. And then also all those virtues that we are practicing right now, through listening, reflecting, and meditating, and teaching, composition, and debating, and so on, bringing them all into one, our roots of virtue that we dedicate. And then on top of that, we can also bring to mind the root of virtue that is accumulated when we rejoice in the virtuous activities of others. So that merit. And then also we can bring to mind the perfect virtue of all the Buddhas and the bodhisattvas who have dedicated perfectly. And then also our intention to follow them. So that merit. So all of that merit, we bring that into one and dedicate it with a vast intention, which is the intention of bodhicitta. And so in general, the vast intention is bodhicitta, and the vast activity are our various virtues activities, like practicing the 6 paramitas. And then there's vast skillful means or method, which, for example, refers to the 4 ways of gathering disciples, which are to speak gently, to speak meaningfully, to practice according to the meaning, and to be generous. And so all of these are accomplished as a result of reciting this aspiration prayer, and all one's the path of one's practice will become meaningful, so becoming accomplished. And so similarly, for example, even if you just recite a single Mani mantra, it will become in itself complete, meaningful practice. And so all of that, having brought that to mind, then again, as before, dedicated completely, a completely dedicate, so it's the highest dedication, without reference point, without concepts, and without the 3 spheres in the mind. So I completely dedicate these virtues from within that state, or we can think that I am dedicating it for the benefit of others.
Ande kapso korso mikpa ta tarbu gon ngoa shibande kandare sedu ngaso tsima mipa ke tsisingo yores kansa toni tsimi mumba me se tomba ni hibade la tsinzing lo yo mare toni ke tawa de to ande kola o nga ke gewan de chimbo chui ji yin sam san ro de kola ngun ne pyu je yao sam sa yu ro ja ma yin ba teni yang so so ke gewa ji in de yin lo ngun na o da nga ke gewa de yin lo ngun ja nan de ke su nam de da yin la top no go ri san ju pa yang mo go ba teni o da nge gewa chimbo ji hyu ji ngu da sin nga ja yang mo go ba tan de tabu tamje ke yuntin de karel dines na toni ki tsisingo se tombani ki tsisimbo tone so so ke ngoju ke gewa ngosu yor ke kanza ngo bo rani ngolo ngotang ndoso tamji la tene don dambo ngoni ranjin je madro ba dimbar madro ba Hindu tela dinzin ta nganzin ke male patoni teni kunzup juma san jo want to say ne teni ngo yo bare ta tendra song song aina teni taranda ngune ngo chi bande sunam de zemta mi bare peje yong churang zula perna nga ke zama chungchong porba na cho lo mi na porba na cho ma lo porba je na namkha tongba je yore namkha je yore di namkha de di porba de pa kha se charna Te nangka te nangka nana pa ten yondu, ta ko nangka te la cha roya yomari, nyo roya yomari, hei roya yomari wa. Te yindu, ngarang zo ke gewa te, mikpa mikpa ke tsi sindu, te ken rewe te la zo roya yomari, se roya yomari, hedang la sobo ke chom roya yomari. Tsimar zimpin tsinzin ke toni gewa tsa andu, te la teni dara shanti dewa ke chunjo nana yoban de so, karpa tong to sakpa ye jinda dehik chula so, teni kontro che ken jobar sa si jo te so, teni kontro te ke to so la parche chi toko yores. Te yin zang ngarang zo ke toni ke tsi singo seba da toni de yang, tong jang kanyang mi dewa na yin ma yin ba, rang yin je ma zhe pa la, yang timder ke wang ke nang cho ba, timder je wang ke jawa chi cho ba, te tawe je toni mla wa tsam je, timder mla wa tsam je ngoni tong ba ri de ba, tong ba korang ngoni, teni yang timder char khar de ba, ta te tawe je pe na chunang la dawa khar wa yin do. Tenda ke je ngu sim ba toni ta ngwa ji go je te, teni ha jang ke karchen bo res.
So it is dedicating without a reference point and free from the three spheres is it's that it is without characteristics, which is from within a state of emptiness. So the three spheres here. So first there is the one who is dedicating, which you think, for example, if you have like a thought, if there is like a characteristic in the mind, then, or the three spheres, then you think I, for example, have practiced virtue, so much virtue. So if I dedicate it, the result will be so great. So without that kind of thought, or for example, if you dedicate it for others, then later maybe you change your mind, then you regret. So also not with any regret, or also without any pride, thinking I've done such and such a great thing. So sealing with emptiness from without a reference point of the three spheres is so there is no concept of this me who is dedicating, and there is no division between the me, the dedicator, and then second the recipient of the dedication, and then the dedication itself. So those three. On the ultimate level, all these do not actually inherently exist. And recognizing that, one dedicates without grasping at the true existence of things, and more from within a state that sees everything as illusory. And dedicating from within such a state becomes an inexhaustible merit, because, for example, if I have a clay pot that is empty, and so there's empty space inside the clay pot, then the clay pot breaks, and the empty space that was inside the clay pot then dissolves into the empty space, or kind of merges with the empty space that's outside of the pot. But then there is no more pot, there's just space. And it's not that the space inside of the pot, anything happened to it, it didn't like break or break open or anything got destroyed or anything like that. It's just to begin with indivisible. And so just like that, when we dedicate our virtue from within that state of emptiness, that's why it becomes endless, because it's just like space and it cannot be destroyed. For example, it doesn't become destroyed by anger because it's a space-like state. And that's unlike an ordinary dedication that is with grasping at characteristics. For example, Shantideva said in the Bodhicharyavatara that a moment of anger destroys the roots of virtue accumulated in thousands of aeons. So a moment of anger can disrupt that virtue. Therefore, it's actually important to dedicate from within a state of emptiness. And with emptiness, we don't mean like nothingness, but it means a lack of inherent existence, and also implies the interdependence of all phenomena. It is because things are empty, everything is interdependent. So that is why things can be done, because things are interdependent, that's why we can do things, and that's why as an interdependent result, for example, we have a precious human body. So it is that because there is emptiness, that things can arise interdependently. For example, the appearance of the moon in water and so on. So therefore, this kind of meditation is very important.
Nyumong batang, tene lej drabatang, naming drabas in Yorewa, data were drabatam jet a trarshin, part the simba than twimbe also. A part the simbangune, part the simbate, Sanjay Chujuko compang Mundujino and the part the simbangune the chado yobarwa. That and twimba is the ta dewajin shinkala so batam jela, Jewa lindwa de, part the simbate, the Tanyewa in Betichan song yore. 다 추주거 공판라야 희야라 타녀는 로고 요러와 그래서 대화지 신하지나 뒤류 용선 진발과 세다 대 간다 대화지는 다 지효 세버게 되네 되게 몰람데 차도 요바르와 된자된 되네 다는 추두지 줄바나 드바탐지 다는 서서데스 무슨 나한테 된통네 대화지 신다랍던로 단데 ngaran sun jiktin kunzob ke wang zi indu ta ngaran sun la jiwa nawan chiwa la so batam ji yore tan chobo kapso sedu ngaran sun namjun ta je soso rani chen ro kapso ta soso nang ge jwa pamjor ni nyen de ro pomo ta te so la teni sem de chan sem cha yulu yone teni namshi te je gewishini la so batam je ke teni poa la so ba parwa ina yang teni tika lamla tsur yong mota pa tsendala tsur cha so ku juna la so ba la da poa glam teni so tsa we man ya dewa chin ro ko ra teni da tanda ma yin ba teni gandar te da je ke ta ti paro teni hinang hal chewa jingnang hal chewa 유장 데이터 버리 만어번 치부 두지 저바는 치부 값서 다대 용도지 데 드바게 드르호요리 드바숨보 가롱 레지 드밤 뉴몽 드밤 넘버 미 드바 가롱 뎀네 드나 용도도 근데 드바 단제 파살네 니마 혀분도 뭐바나 이 차네 데니다 무섬도 시다 로그제 이검베는 이게 바지 레완도 잠네 데데와 자마야 로 요도 온섬 등하란조 차라메 데네 나 레와 잠는 무스 치 미바치 레와 자고 요로 레와 자데 데자고라 대마 마종 바지 제 정나 사면 레와와 다 레와 데다바 많이 바츠 당 무스 데 무스 요네 레와 자고 마라 당 무슨 되네 나와타에 되네 소소게 이 라멜 통네 데 통화데 다데 통화시 발라 디와지 히는 로고 요자 데다반 로아쇼 시바 몰라레스
And then third is so it's the dedication which the dedication that is completely holding a kind of lu zimba.
Lu yongsen zimba.
How do lu?
Lu da dewa da te le labo cheba na da dewa jin simjin ke lu lingo yoro.
Atinda lu.
Da
So it says literally the dedication that completely perfectly holds a body that is harmonious with the freedom of obscurations and harmonious with the paramitas. The body here refers to, for example, a body that's taking birth in Dewa Chen. So the verse says, "At the moment of my death, may all my obscurations be removed, that I may behold Amitabha, the Buddha of boundless light, and go to Sukhavati, the pure land of great bliss." So what these obscurations are what obscure us from not beholding Amitabha at the time of death. So the obscurations that obscure us mainly are those of the afflictive emotions and our karmas and karmic maturation. And wait a minute. So the perfection here, so in the title still then again, so the perfections, so in harmony with the perfections, meaning like transcending, that transcending is another word for perfection. So basically it means that one actualizes the Dharmakaya, so in harmony with the actualization of the Dharmakaya, and that is to mean that one takes, for example, birth in Dewa Chen, and then beholds Buddha Amitabha, boundless light directly. And so now from a relative worldly perspective, in terms of at the moment of my death, so we experience birth, old age, sickness, and death. And normally when somebody dies, then when we die, then we are very attached to what we have to leave behind, like our possessions and our relatives and friends and so on. And often it's the case that even though maybe a spiritual teacher is there to like direct our consciousness through practicing POA and transference of consciousness for us, we might still not be able to go through the central channel. And so that is because of our attachment to this life, and also the fear that we experience. And the fear that we experience then is far more greater than anything we experienced before at the time of death. So therefore what obscures us at that time are those obscurations of the afflictive emotions and karma and full maturation, the ripening of karma. And therefore the sun-like light cannot dispel the darkness. So at that time, actually, when obscurations are then removed, like the sun removing darkness, then the beholding of Amitabha will be a direct experience, so not even something that we need to put our hopes in, but it's a direct cognition of the mind. So then one goes to Deva Chen and sees the Buddha Amitabha.
Tene da yebate yeba parad simba dan tumbu lu yongsun zembar ngwa sondo yebate la. Da de kare reside de dodo de kare songo yoreside ngaranzo ko mulam jabande khani pa mulam che jab ne ko ne teta we che ma yang ma me devata we dela ko ni teta ko banana semnang la jogdra semnang la teta we ne ke che 냠던 로험이 봐 카다 셈니 냠던 로험이 봐 데라 카잠 세르데 책잠 세르주데 나 책잠 그거 삼나 따나마도 동거 돌았더니 삼나 따마다 봐 데이터와양 많이 봐다 간다고 유르시드 there's some their song in Mulan da Jang. Their song is the Ga song is Dewaji in their song is. Ta Mulan da Jang, ta Mulan Kong Ta Yuba Mulan da Tamji Malu Mund Jorahos. Ta Mulan Ta Yaba taken David ta Miho Senata, de Mulan da Jayong, Mulan Ta Yaba Korank, taken David Mihos. Denita Teda Malu da Yongsa Kang Jiti Chisis in Yipimar Tande Gandar Tahi Gan Hyundo Yoke Susoke Juba Parade Simba Lam Parade Sim Mardungo Yala Soba Tamji Geta Lalink Tony Deni Darate Yongsa Kang Kibate Titsok and David Yongsa Mine Hibatonrua Cha Chang Batoni Jitin Chiksi in Yipimar Jitin de la Chisi c'est de ta tu chisi de tu le ko ta ne simjin thamje la ta phimbar je se ta simjin re ni ren da tang tna cha ma yin para ta jitin da la de kan la si simjin ke marai ta chi bo ya ma yin ba simjin thamje la ta phimbar je se ta de ho yong ko yoris.
And then number 4 is the dedication that completely holds or grasps a body that conforms with the with transcendence or the paramitas. And so this is the next verse. In that blissful land, may I completely fulfill all of these aspirations and benefit all beings as long as the universe remains. So first, the first line in Tibetan is, may I completely fulfill all of these aspirations. It actually starts with, in that blissful land, all these aspirations. It's the first line in Tibetan. So the blissful land, the land of Devachan, and all these aspirations that have been made were not just made verbally. So when we make an aspiration, then it should not just be something that we verbalize, but something that we also feel in our heart, inside in our mind. So not like that. So we completely, wholeheartedly, the aspirations that I have made, all these, so in that blissful land, then may I completely fulfill it. So may the results of this prayer completely ripen and then benefit all beings. So for example, like through the 6 paramitas or those 4 ways of gathering disciples, and may it be fulfilled. That's kind of the last word in Tibetan. So fulfilled, may it be completely fulfilled. And then as long as the universe remains, so as long as there are sentient beings, may they all benefit from this. And that means not just certain beings, but all sentient beings, and not just human beings, but all sentient beings. So may the benefit go to all sentient beings.
Da tere gandar molan da ngarang zu molan gandra chik taba ina yang teni lalin ka thoni na category so jetan chudri ya de tena cha de yorwa lalin hiban de zo jiangqiu seng ge zisin ninji ge zisin de yarjian ro de dongba ni ge zisin tena be yongba ina teni lalin ka thola kher de yobare 디그 돈에 되는 개와 강조와이나 텔란드베 요바레 대인자 라링게 강 저저걸로 라링게 담보 칸인도 책을람네 주 대 라링가 카강네 되니 라링게 카강 다 돈다 대답이 차대 요르바.
So this term fulfilling here is also significant because now whatever prayer we make, and really whatever dharma we practice, fulfillment also means that it is actually put into practice. And so it begins with the motivation of love and compassion. And then when that becomes more developed, then finally the practice is also sealed with emptiness. And so in this way, the aspiration is actually acted upon, is fulfilled. And whatever virtue then is acted upon, therefore will also bear a result. So the fulfillment here means the actual, like, putting it into practice. It begins with the motivation, the prayer that we verbalize, we say some words, and then we also want these words to become fulfilled.
Dala mambo jege da da mulan de undo kare che go re se ti tsara gom ja ma do ne samsan ro ta tang che yong ko yore gom ja de che mulan dong go le mes sam ya ka ta tang ni yong do ta tang ni de ngarang zo go jun ju ke chi go yo ma de da malu da ge yong se kang se du ngan dong ge yin dong ba de la ling ke to ne ka kang ji ge yin se 책 더 동대라 가강세도 담보 책 카게 동거라 몰란도도 카게 동야데 가르선 책 남는 동거 책도 이토로 요바데 동거 여러와 데라 가강지도 장초선 그 제답 닌지게 제답 돈이게 지심바 돈도 다그 용서 강 시바다 차도 요라 다디 책들라 랩사도 데 띵히 띠나 디 책데 소소게 기기 뭐네 자올라 마차도 데 그게 그때 다 된다 용거 요르다 몰란 돈데 접힌 거스 라린 따고 너 차게 요라 양 라린 딴 데나 돈에 동걸 삼산도 양제 용거 요라 다 코니 타니스 말홍 바지 거 데니로 바지 니가 고 디칼라
So this may I completely fulfill. So, for example, there are some who say that what's the benefit of doing all these prayers? Better to do something actually. And then the other extreme would be like one shouldn't do anything and just do prayers. So one shouldn't fall into either of these two extremes. One needs to make the prayer, but also one needs to do something. So even if one has one or the other viewpoint, we still shouldn't criticize it. But when we want to bring this fulfillment here, may I completely fulfill, then that begins with first forming this aspiration and then verbalizing it, saying the words. And then when you're actually sealing it, when after you have said those things, you actually then giving rise to compassion and bodhicitta, and then seal with emptiness, then it has been fulfilled. So then then you have fulfilled all of these aspirations. So actually, this line here really is like a root teacher, root guru.
Te o de nga pa de long tin ba top jing sim ji ji dong zhe ba ngwas de re da long tin ba se de long tin ta bo san je tam je ge long tin nang ne long ge sim ba ji wu la no nam jung so da de long ge sim bi ji o ma jo ba la mi de nam jung so long ge sim bi ji wu la no de ne longest in which is the current city da perna sanje oba min dun je dewaji hin je ne dene da dewaji ge hin ne sanje ge oba me ge da jurang mang bala ja jo sam ban da dan da ta wa ya na de yin hi ban da dan da ta wa jin juro sin Tene maung bala teta bala sangje se ne longting topko yore janjo sumba tanjil. Da teta ba topko shibitong re.
Then number 5 is the dedication toward the accomplishment of first the prophecies, the accomplishment of the receiving of prophecies, and secondly the accomplishment of the benefit of sentient beings. First of these is the dedication toward the accomplishment or the obtaining of a prophecy, which is this verse here. Joyful, so this one, yeah, joyful there in that blessed assembly of the Buddha, may I be reborn like the holy ones from an was it this one? Yeah, exquisite lotus, and may the Buddha Amitabha himself foretell my own enlightenment. So first, the prophecy is that there are certain bodhisattvas who, once they're bodhisattvas, they receive a prophecy from a Buddha, like Amitabha. In Devachan, once you're born in Devachan, then you receive this prophecy from Amitabha saying that in the future you will become such and such a bodhisattva, such and such a Buddha, Tathagata, and then you will attain enlightenment in such a pure land and so on. So you will receive this prophecy.
Ta te tsek karek sungon do huna jawe chungkor zangin gawa ter pimo tamba hindun zili jis. Nawan taye jawe ngusum to longtien pa da ke ter top hyo song. Ta zambo jubo molan de to ke giba zawan de so latine ta jawe chungkor zangi gawa de opa mi ki shinkam re. Ta chungkor zangin gawa si ba de da donga ga daya maraba dene dewa ta yongtin poson choba yo ba dela der pemo tamba hindun zile ta dena ngarang su jewa len du juji 다른 거랑 좀 직딩들 절지엔다 ngar지wen의 지연고 여러 ngarne 마이 ngarne 지연고 여러와 될 준저것도 주지wen의 지연고 여러 매도 뱀번 될 지에스 지네 다 나와다의 우선도 샤른자는 말더니 롱딩 톱고 요레스 더니 롱딩 떠나 더니 마음발라 장쇼선 바다 대비행식 다 대비행식 효도와 대비행식 대다버지는 요르네 대비행 희반은 저런데 띵바다 심진 거동 따라 협자도 밖에 제바나 이거든 제네 되는 원바르즈 상제바 다다 sorting 거 여러와 대인자 다 데이터베지 용효 진데 뭐 용거 요래
So first the first line is in the assembly, is it? In a joyful there in that blessed assembly of the Buddha. So in that joyful, excellent, like kind of mandala of the victorious ones, which refers to the place of Devachan. So through the roots of which you take birth in Devachan and meet the Buddha Amitabha, and in this place there is no suffering, not even the sound of suffering is heard. And it's a place of perfect happiness and perfect qualities. And then the second line says, so then may I be reborn from an exquisite lotus. And that shows that in Devachan one is born miraculously. As opposed to our human birth, we are born from the wombs of our mother. So in Devachan, it's a miraculous birth through a lotus flower. And then the third line in Tibetan is, and then, what's it? And may the Buddha Amitabha, may the Buddha Amitabha directly is the third line. The fourth line is then give me a foretell my own enlightenment, or may I receive a prophecy, an authentic prophecy from the Buddha Amitabha directly at that place. So that is the prophecy where then the Buddha Amitabha says that in the future you will become a Buddha, and then you will bring benefit to the teachings and to sentient beings, and your activities will become just like the Buddha Shakyamuni's activities. So it is therefore also an aspiration to attain that state of complete enlightenment.
다 오바미게 신감 시반데 做持续신감 라 되니 예나 진레세 용的되니 차나 도르지 라소바 요레 요르와 때 소타마 소소 그 생고도 그 니지랑소 소소 그 생고도 그 히라고랑소 되니 소소게다 주니게 내로도 따와 데스모리 다르도 자다 도소야제 대리나 되니 대화지니 신나 같은 바제와 제토고 요레 숨바레
So Amitabha, the Pure Land of Amitabha. So you have his right hand Chenrezig, and on his left side Vajrapani, which are the manifestations of one's own mind's compassion and one's own mind's wisdom. And then Amitabha represents the realization of the Dharmata state or the view. So if we basically make an effort in this prayer, then without much difficulty, one will be reborn in Devachan.
Longtin tomne simjin ju don drubar ngwa hi ba tere ta chom maung bala chum de de ye hi ba da chom ba te ta bi thok do se de te so so main chim bo ji char do sam te ta bi san jo sam ba tan jin jin ke yo ma ta main de kare jin go do se tham ke ju ba se te ro ta main de ta bi yo na de la tu bu ke de ni simjin tham jel phin tho ja chim bo yo kun do se ti jum sin tin go yo re ne ra ne 네 다시 강을 휴연 봐. 산지 좀 된데 자갈 렉 망보 요르데 자부 렉라 통고 와데 준신 가르를 센다. 렉 하장 민보 제글 지와랑 와이나 되니 뭐탄지 통청제네 되니 용디 요나데 핀토 드롭 더고요. 미장 티콩 자브르를 통바르와 대야 탐게 버주바레. 단 델라 데타버 롱티 톰나 되니 델 파파게 되니 심지게 돈 라포친 드롭 더고요. 바 델 티나 리마도게 되니 매일라 단진 지네 드라 난게요 말해와 다 땡아서 대선 메바레
So then next is second, and it is the dedication to it's the dedication to second one is the dedication to accomplish the benefit of no, are we still in the? So the second one, is dedicating that once one has then obtained the prophecy, that one then will accomplish the benefit of others, and so. So then the Buddha gives you this prophecy and says that in the future you will be this Buddha, this Tathagata, and have this name. So the reason for saying that is not because then you get a great name or something like that, but the reason for saying they're kind of like giving a prophecy and calling you this name is also a skillful means, and because then with that name you can benefit many sentient beings extensively, which is also why we said the Buddha was born as a prince in India, because there are many different caste systems in India, and if one is born like in a low system, then other people would look down on one, and then even though one has qualities, nobody would appreciate them, and then one cannot really benefit others. So this kind of giving of the name is also a skillful means. So in here it is the prophecy of accomplishing the benefit of limitless sentient beings. So certainly there is no doubt about the fact that the name that is given has nothing to do with self-clinging.
다 데 가르선 데르네 다가 롱팅 랍터네 세타 ngombo oba mega drone 데니 데비기 발라소바니 더 롱팅 바데 소소 디 메인트 톱네 진트 톱네 데니 가르티 거스 트루바 망보 제와 차자이스 다 트루바 제와 차자 데니 다 군주 장부 주바 히바난드노 요와 베르나 데니 제 로아 므 포다 몰라 소바케 제와 가레링고요나 데다 린달린데 데자 마제바케 데네 심지 자당 지우당 체데 힘을 순주당 데니 다 데마인바게 제 힘당 지행당 낙살라 소바 쇼당 사다 도담제게 제와린네 데니 심진 담제라다 핀바 용효세 대양 제 핀바 용바다 로이 돕지 sob지 나서야 심진날 핀바 뭐지 송한데 가르침바 차도 요르바 로이 돕 시반데 ngaran zoje dasola chapa me ba rewa me ba doba me ba de da ba jongwa na de ni loi top se da top tamje nang ge loi top de top chimbo cha yong ge yore jang chou sem ba tamje ka jing na ji yu ba de nga zo ji ba na wo ji ri jang chou sem ba de ngaran zo yin ya lok top che jong be de ko ka ha cha de yore 심진 탐제 그 돈 접고 상야 그 로데다 nga san san tanda ya teni pena namda sak chebar chade yorwa de jum sene tene pena cha sama la hyoba yobare de jajar chungchin hiba de teni namkha ke hajang chen thoba kan khayen part ko yosi teni dabcha yimba tamje ya des person din longke de porji yo marwa longke dark te pe de ya yore de la loi top del pe de ya yore pe de kanda ya yore sina pe na chong jajar chongchin ina jalam goma parma oma se yore de na jalam goma de sonin porto ko yore is long put de sena na long peng in po yore labre de so ke yang ke parche chi to ko yo maris ko long de ke ko hyokzar de ke porto ko yore is tani yinda ina ja nga son dabcha yimba ina tani de ke porto ko yo mar di long de no tapchi morwa long put de
and so then the verse says is it this one? Yeah. So may I thereafter emanate endlessly through the power of perfect wisdom to accomplish countless benefits for living beings in all the 10 directions. So then we have received this a prophecy from the Buddha Amitabha, and we have received this name, and so that is, I guess, within the Maya thereafter. So it says here literally then having received this prophecy. So it says having received this prophecy is the first line, and then the second line is then through endless emanations, so hundreds and thousands of emanations. What is it? Through the power of perfect wisdom. Is it a third one? Different again here. So anyways, maybe I don't look at the blue one. So the first line says that having received this prophecy, and the second line is having received this prophecy, then may I bring forth countless emanations, and with these countless emanations, with great, through the power of my mind, in all the 10 directions, may I benefit many sentient beings. So this mind, before the activities that are accomplished, sometimes we call them Samantabhadra activities. So emanations manifest in all these different forms as men and women, of course, but even in the animal realm, for example, as birds or cats and dogs, or even as plants or trees and water and earth and rock and so on, may I appear, emanate in whichever form to bring benefit to sentient beings. And then in the third line, there's this through the power of my mind. The power of the mind is so that when the mind is full of power, it is free of attachment and hope and conceptuality. And that is the greatest strength of all strengths. It's the strength, the power of the mind. And when we compare ourselves to bodhisattva, then maybe in terms of our body and having a mouth and a nose and so on, we are the same, but there's a huge difference between the power of our mind. Because on one hand, the bodhisattvas, in their mind, they think may bring about the benefit of countless sentient beings, and on the other hand, the other person without that strength of mind only thinks of me and me. So it's just like the difference between the earth and the sky. For example, it's like a bird, like different birds can fly at different altitudes. So there is like a hawk bird, I guess bigger bird, that can fly at a higher altitude and is unharmed by the intensity of the air and the wind at that altitude. And if one is a smaller bird, then one can fly, but one can't fly at that altitude because of the air and the wind there. So it's a bit like that, the difference.
Da zambo juba tumbe gewtsawa yonsungwa hibatere. Tela da zambo juba molan tabaye gewa jungze da kichi saba tinan robo molan gewa na kichi jike tamje jugra hyosi. Da ngara tsoke zambo juba de da hi ganglan changwa tungda lopa tsima po songsonga te. Ke da gewtsawa jisaba katse sa yoba yina yansi. Tene tegen robo molan da kandar te kare molam te kare tarbisina tene roa thamji tene tu ringbor motoba kechik jigla tene mumbu ton thamji ngarang choken roa thamji de hyo ji hyo la soba ni zonde tene oba me ki hinkang la soba la je hyo tene roa thamji la soso rani ke je loi top da zuntra ke top la soba ke phin hyo si mola ta ya ba thamji duyon ringbor garde ba mai ba kechik jig tene te so chama drop hyo sebeda molam teres.
And then number 6 is the complete dedication of the roots of virtue come from reciting the prayer for excellent conduct. And so the verse is, through whatever small virtues I've gathered by reciting this aspiration of Samantabhadra, may all the virtuous aspirations of living beings be accomplished in a single moment. So whatever virtue has been gathered from touching, reciting, or teaching this prayer for excellent conduct, and any other virtue that has been accumulated, dedicated toward the like the quick accomplishment of the various aspirations of all sentient beings in a single moment, so quickly. May they attain perfect happiness, and may they take birth in the pure land of Devachan, and then through the power of my mind and through miraculous abilities, may I be able to benefit them. Yeah.
Da dikapso tsikjende ke kare tingke yursna zambo jobo ke da gevatsawa dan jik de donne laryang de zambo joba la tene lakpar de da deta longju ba juju ba den ra yong hyo sen da ngwa je ten ninga chimbo je re. Aranzu zambo juba ke geva tsawa la tine, tene tang ngoa jihi yorwa. Layang zambo juba la ju tab hyo si ngoa yo. Tang nga tso sinji tang.
So, then so what we are saying here in this prayer is that through the roots of gathering into one, all these roots of virtue accumulated, then when all of this ripens, then again, maybe again, enjoy the practice of the excellent conduct.
Tene da dunba te simjin tamji oba me jines jewa ngoas. Kayang zambo juba den ngube sunam taya tamba kanto den robo dungar chur singwa na oba me benera tobar shosa. Ta kanza sunraji ina yang, teke zambo juba ke teke ndake geba tsawa nguba la tine, tene teke sunam teke, tene ta ti teke sunam geba tsawa tela tine, tene ta tamba choto hyo hibandi kapsu teke kowa da nginsong ke jamso tabana na ma seng dewa te teke tele drone tene kantar gombo oba me chi hyen de jiwar hyo hibaton re ten gombo oba me ke hyen de ji na tene jancho ke long tin tene tebgin hibala so ba tamje ke long tin ba la so ba gang la ta pula ndeki hiba te yindo tene yong hyo hibaton re.
And number 7 is the dedication to be born in the field, the realm of Amitabha, or for all sentient beings to be born in the realm of Amitabha. So through the boundless merit gained by dedicating these aspirations of Samantabhadra, may the countless beings drowning in the torrent of suffering reach the state of Amitabha. So by the power of this root of virtue, by the power of this merit that I've generated, then may the sentient beings who are drowning in the mud, like the swamp, in the swamp of samsara, which are the various miserable existences within samsara, may they become liberated from this samsaric swamp and take birth in Amitabha's pure land of Dewa Chen. And once they have taken birth there, as you mentioned before, may they receive a prophecy of their own enlightenment.
다 다라 된 순난타야 담바 강탑디 히반데 다 니송당 도서 가로나 지와란수나 되니 렘 님바게 지와디 인자드 되니 담베추 드바당 되니 대와지 신칸 제야도서 레라보 메이로바 대인자 되니 다 대와지 신칸 대 지송아이나 다 지와데네 되니 니송게네 때다 마힘바 지와 민바 때다 마힘바 인자 되니 담바 간투디 히바데레.
So in the Tibetan is the second line, that verse is the swamps of samsara.
Tamba de ngakende ki de jayen chitang tin sondwa. Zambo jo molang korang kesunam de la tamba la huyura. Tamba hiban chot chibara. Chot de mara. Lu chot de mara.
So it's the so through the recitation or through receiving this, how is it said here, the boundless merit that comes from the recitation of this prayer for excellent conduct, then may beings be relieved from like the torrents or the swamps of suffering. And normally when beings are stuck or drowning in a miserable existence, like in the lower realms, then it's not easy there to practice the Dharma or to take birth in Deva Chen. So may they not be there, but may I raise them up. So liberate them so that they are, reach that state of the Buddha Amitabha.
다 되어도 되니 다 직제 담아대 되니 로자와 탐제 저지 몰람 저무 저 저런데 몰란다 용바더리세 달라 몰람 저본다 저그조 타연로와 군라 핀지젠 군도 잠보 짐베 용 접된 인성내나 말에 동말 효세 다 몰람 잡고 시대다 파파 잠보 주버 몰란데와 몰란게 잡고 임바겠다 레히 만보 휴바레 되네 대게 타연 로아군라 핀지젠세 다 타예번 로아 탐제라 핀 내가 핀바단 다르도 대와용바다 델레티네 되네 군도 잠보 짐비 용트데스 네손네나 말 동바르다 군도 잠보게 다라들 용트데 히바들란 레히니 요고요레 달라 옌트데 신레히제 용고요레 레히데 군도 잠보게 힌캄된 드럼나 당인송 되네 드라양 드라자 메인자요 요마르와 담보 티차니 휴바이나 데이터베지리스 옌트데 히바완세 담봉에 옌트데 지능의 용점을 해시오 되게 zanju molande.
And then what's it? The final verse is and let's see. Koran 속 유르벨로 잡아denso.
Koran 속 유르.
It's a verse that was translated. It's a prayer that was translated by the Tibetan Lotsawas, the translator. And so that last prayer says, "May this greatest of dedication prayers benefit countless living beings. May reciting this ornament of Samantabhadra release all beings from the suffering of the lower realms." First line, so through this king of aspiration, so it says here greatest. So through this king of aspiration prayers of all the dedication of all the aspiration prayers that exists, as we have explained before, this prayer of excellent conduct is the king of all aspiration prayers. So by the recitation or practice of this king of dedication prayers, then second line in Tibetan is may this benefit countless living beings. And so may sentient beings experience a temporary and the temporary benefit and ultimate happiness. And then may reciting this ornament of Samantabhadra release all beings from the suffering of the lower realms. So there's this word here, shungdrup. Then there's also another word which is shingdrup. And so shungdrup has to do with practicing this text, and shingdrup means accomplishing the Pure Land. So accomplishing the Pure Land is that once one is born in a Pure Land, one has accomplished it. Because in the Pure Land of Amitabha, for example, not even the name of suffering exists.
다 간다는 데가 만돌 되면 되네. 군도 잠부 주바게 다 몰람게 잡고 달티네 되네 다 로아라다 제바 탐지 그 조암 된 라나메 바시 티 강라메 데바 텔 효요로와 되네 데 가레르스나 산제주 공판데레 데 산제주 공판데 되네 타이번 로아 탐지 그다 톱고한데 토바르세 발란 침바다 제와 느바 숨나디나 토고요바 인자 되네 데 토발라디네 다히 용다르드베는 레히 휴바다 힝다르드네 휴바이나 다 간다르 디 코아등 인송송 그 동하데 타르 코아등 인송송보다 똥송아이나 미바차송아이나 되네 싱감차도 요리 군도 잠보 그 준비 싱감차도 요바레 고보 오바메 그 준비 싱감차도 요리 데이터 외지든 저월 쇼 시바크 동레스
So to summarize this verse, so through the prayer, to practicing the prayer of excellent conduct, which is the king of aspiration prayers, may limitless sentient beings achieve the unsurpassed state, which is the state of enlightenment. And the way to achieve the unsurpassed state of enlightenment is through the qualities of omniscience, compassion, and power. So through these qualities may they achieve the unsurpassed state. Through the practice of this prayer, and so which is there's this kind of two accomplishments mentioned here. One is the accomplishment of prayer, and one is the accomplishment of the field. And the accomplishment of the field here refers to then sentient beings becoming liberated from the suffering of samsara and the lower realms and so on. So all suffering becomes empty, and then may they all take birth in the pure lands of, such as the pure lands of Samantabhadra or Amitabha.
That and took Zambuji young the tran, that you the Zomba boke the Jukzon Jeurtema Hugins. Chelmade. Oh. Tang Tinningaman Tordizon, say Molorva. That canters Chanchos and the Ninja Lasoba Latine, Tene, Ta Joa Parad Simbato, the doing of a year, the Solatine, Tene, the Son it's Harrium Bake, Tene Zambo Jubandas. Tene Tang Koatang, Tene Nyandeke, Juba Tamjing Koranang Juba Yabu Gare in Senare, Young Inland Debatam Juba Gare in Senare, the Soketa, Juba made Soma Yahu. Te karesna zambu nang zambo te zambo juba the chad yuris. This na ta then the juba then hajang sabata then jachewa then jersey juba chad yubaris. The jumsin tine zambo juba she mengta baris.
And are a few concluding verses here, but we don't have them in our text, so Khenpo will just summarize them. So they summarize the meaning of this prayer, and so in brief, those verses say that, in conclusion, it is, to summarize, it is through the mind of bodhicitta and of compassion that one practices the 6 paramitas and the 4 ways of gathering disciples. And then through these activities, one's activities become excellent activities. And there are many excellent activities in samsara and nirvana. And if we were to compare it to the best activity of samsara and the best of nirvana, the best of all the best is this King of Aspiration prayers, and therefore it is very vast and profound. It is the activities of the bodhisattvas, and so that is why it is given the name excellent conduct.
Ta deta zambo juba molam de tsegli to ne tseg dong to ne ta ju da dimba sing deta wende ateni deta bo ke yong zambo de teni jagen ke pa ta bu gen ke pa la so ba ta teni to so chama la tok de ta to so ge yong lo tham je lo to ne teni ta zom char de ya je na nga mo ge zom char dang ding ra bu zom char ni song zhe ge to ni zang yong ba yin so 이게 로지미스 되대. 남도 거다.
Yeah, Mari, it's not there. No.
뒤는 요 말에. 엔저와라.
디 로고나 자랑 삼라만 보단 그래요.
대 요요라.
Mari 디나나 요래. 디나나 요 Mari.
뒤는 요 말.
디나나 요래 nga phe 요래. I have it in Tibetan, no English.
Yeah.
Right. That's okay, right?
Yeah, hakkasan 대. 게 말에.
So And then, so then the next verse here in the colophon says, so then the words contained in this prayer all are endowed with meaning and all trace back to the vast bodies of commentaries reflecting the enlightened intent of the Tibetan and the Indian scholars and the accomplished masters. And then it says here, which are the words from the author, that the kind of the language used, the voice used to compose this commentary actually combines both the voice of the old days and the contemporary kind of way of communicating, which of course was at that time.
다 데이터 짬바들 티네 디글스 짬바글 다 수남테 톨라 티네 데네 로아 탐지 그 야라 그 잠부주 발라 라바다 람네 데네 저세 그주다 간다 저세보니 던저네 데저네 데네 다 군드 잠부주 발라 데데 나바 군드 주버효 히베 데네 죽잠 던라레샤스.
And then the author completes with a dedication. He's saying, by the merit that arose from this composition, may all sentient beings train in the excellent conduct, may they engage in the excellent conduct, and then through perfecting the excellent conduct, may they all become bodhisattvas. And may beings always and everywhere engage in excellent conduct.
Haya, that the anju get any Papa Zamboji Yong, that dema Yudiakaras in Don Dravatella. Tene Denza, take Tolandeva, Kang Shishiji Huyobare, Lakpar de Deji Tarangaranzo, Tene. Nupso shoga chazu chagurta je namba ke chu sardu tana ke ta lomya nangkin tang ya namba ke chu nyamni kala kanza ya yapo nangkin chama la tene mekte tene sosung ne je gang shi shi ke tanran de he ji hyu jirtang kon de he korang la hang sa ya ke yapondo.
And so this completes the teachings on this commentary on the prayer of excellent conduct, and the commentary itself actually consists of over 400 pages, and I explained these to you to the best of my abilities. And so now here in the West, there are some of you maybe who are newly studying Buddhism, you're new to Buddhism, and some of you may be more experienced in the practice. And so with all of that in mind, with various different practitioners in mind, then I gave these teachings to the best of my abilities, and really that commentary here is actually, it's really quite incredible.
Kondehe Koran kasi bo lepzang rere sunya de rere na drang yo mare matoke yinda da tseg dong tone malupa hyu bares.
And so we didn't go through each and every word of the commentary, because there are like a lot of quotes by, for example, Nagarjuna or Vasubandhu and so on, but these just reiterate the meaning that was explained. So in terms of that, in terms of the meaning, really nothing was at all was left aside. So everything that's really in the commentary was really included in the teachings.
Hina ta ngarang lo namchu chu wala tine nowan trowa kang songa ina zupar sorsi te huje tang tini ta ngarang so ge zambu ju ba ndela hie ju tang and so tamje ngune che tusa pal dewan rawo che re Tiku sunam de la tuba yana ta taran zambal na mambo je rongdo ho yore kanga yore semdar yore ta doso tamje la je pimba ga mi na yitandar du ta teta sel kumbo kokapjik ngarang la chunga te ha tene jabje zavala man garchin mo khong ke tuji ka din tang tene ta GBI ke tene tara sokzo Christina re tene tara lo tik trajak thone pas tene jeden na ke beleri tene ke jor inar china ba samala tuji che hyo tene tegla nyingkin tamje samal tuji che hyos.
And so if it happened that due to my maybe poor intelligence, maybe I've made some mistakes, then I'm asked for your patience and forgiveness. And we have had the merit for explaining and listening to the prayer of excellent conduct. So it's actually quite a timely teaching, because nowadays there's a lot of suffering in the world. Many people are dying and have many difficulties and are worried. And this really is the best medicine for their difficulties. And it really is more valuable than gold itself. And the fact that we had the opportunity to have these teachings is the kindness of His Eminence Gachin Rinpoche, my root gurus, compassionate blessings, and also due to the staff here at GBI. So, for example, the director, Christina, and Billy, who is doing that technical side, and the translator, Ina, and so forth. And then also I would like to thank all of the disciples, all of you who came to listen to the teachings.
So this is Christina speaking for everyone, because I know you can't see me. And I just wanted to really give a heartfelt thank you to Khenpo Tenzin for all of his diligent effort to really beautifully and carefully go through this commentary and help us better understand these profound prayers. And with, of course, the understanding and practice, that's what will lead to the transformation that we are seeking, that realization. And so we're so grateful for you really to illuminate this profound prayer and just help us understand the deeper meaning behind all of the beautiful poetry in the prayer as well. So thank you so much. It's rare to be able to receive this kind of extensive commentary on this prayer, and we're very happy that you fulfilled His Eminence Garchen Rinpoche's request and wish. So that's an auspicious merit for us all, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I also want to thank Ina for her diligent translation. It's just so necessary. Without you, we could not understand anything. So we're really grateful for all your hard work and dedication. And then these offerings that I'm making are on behalf of all of the Sangha. Thank you for your generosity and for your participation. And of course, you wouldn't have been able to hear the teachings or see Khenpo all of these weeks without Billy's help. And so we really thank Billy for all of his really great technical expertise with the streaming now, and all of the great images that he, and the clear labeling that he does on our YouTube channel. So thank you. Thank you all. I also just want to remind everyone that we will be celebrating the Laba Duchen and His Holiness Chutsang Rinpoche's birthday very early on Saturday morning, November 7th, Chutsang Rinpoche, at 6 a.m. Arizona time. So please tune in. The link is on our homepage of our website. His Eminence Garchen Rinpoche and many other lamas in the Drikung Kagyu lineage will be gathering together on Facebook Live to pay tribute and honor His Holiness Chutsang Rinpoche, and we'll do the Lama Chopa practice together. So please tune in for that, and then we will be holding our White Tara practice with His Eminence Garchen Rinpoche on this coming Sunday. And then Khenpo Tenzin will be giving a Dharma talk in the afternoon on the World Peace Prayer and leading another guided meditation. So please join us for more Dharma, and we hope to gather together with you online very soon. Take care. Thank you.
Yeah, short incident.
So, right, like before. We start on with the dedication on page 11 in the yellow prayer book. By this merit may I attain omniscience. Having defeated the enemies, my wrongdoings, may I liberate all beings who are tossed in the ocean of samsara by the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. And we at page 16. Just as the hero Manjushri realized things as they are, and as did Samantabhadra too, I will follow in their path and perfectly dedicate all these virtues. And then in the blue prayer book, on page 64, verse 21. May every being ailing with disease be freed at once from every malady. May all the sickness that afflicts the living be instantly and permanently healed.